Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the July Cedar Lake Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting. If you would rise and join me in the pledge of the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We are? We are now. Roll call.
Mr. Burnham?
Present.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Present.
Mr. Kapora?
Present.
Mr. Bundy?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present. Ms. Hayek is present.
Okay. First item on the agenda is approval of 2 months worth of meetings, both May and June. Did everybody get a chance to peruse them as posted and released?
Yes, sir. I didn't see any corrections, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Motion been made by John, seconded by Ray. Any questions? Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Bundy?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 1, under old business, Burr Inc. Robert and Kathleen Burr Inc. in the vicinity 14335 Truman Street in Cedar Lake. This is a continued, multiply continued item from a few months ago, and everything I believe is in order. David, this can go on.
This has all been previously checked off.
Okay.
Continuation.
Thank you. Good evening.
How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm just here to see if anything's happened yet with the decision making. I had spoken to Ashley earlier today. I spoke to Tim Kubiak a couple weeks ago. Talked about the issues. There's still a debate going on between stormwater and I'm assuming what Tim is going to decide what we're going to do with the street before we can even proceed with, finalizing the issues on the variances.
Okay. So this is something that's still being worked on in-house as far as stormwater and some drainage type of plan?
There's been talk at the last storm board meeting that the streets department would look at cleaning up the end of that right-of-way area. Talking with Tim this morning, due to how the houses along this street were built, they were built with what is known as reverse driveways, where your driveway is lower than the road. That's what's causing the issue. So, talking with Tim this morning, it was discussed that without lowering the road and installing all necessary infrastructure at that time, curb, gutters, storm, there's not a simple, easy, quick solution at this time. Again, the discussion was to look at getting the street out there, cleaning up the end of the right-of-way, but it's not a quick and easy solution, and it doesn't sound like it's something that would fall just straight under storm. At that point in time, if we're talking about lowering a road, we're then looking at a capital improvement plan, and that would have to be approved by town council, and I don't know when that would even potentially occur.
Okay. So how do we proceed? Is this just a continuing, lingering, in limbo situation?
Every torrential downpour, I get water in the garage. I mean, what scares me is sometimes if I'm out of town, it can get so bad that it could even encroach coming into the home at the front of the garage. So something's got to give. I mean, like I said, I'm willing to participate. I can't do what I think is on my mind and do a structure. It's got to be something agreeable to everybody.
I'm sure you'll get at least 5 board members here that are in accordance and approval with that also. So.
Yeah.
So no construction started on the house, correct?
No.
All right, so
I can't.
So one of your variances is I'm looking at the house correctly, that's the one next to the apartment complex, right, at the end of the
Yeah.
street. So your back part of the driveway, the back part of the house is too close to the road, so you have barely minimum, you have no driveway.
I think there's about 8-9 feet
And
there, and
a car couldn't fit in there.
well, I've requested enough additions so that I can get vehicles in the garage. And then,
And that's what your addition part to the garage is to add out, so you can actually put a car in the garage.
exactly, and then to the north is that additional 6 or 7 feet so that it equals the rest of the house on that whole west side.
And then how about the addition to the west of the house? And then what part that faces the lake?
But the east side,
The east side, I'm sorry.
I'm
The east side,
basically
yes.
only wanting to add on the rear northeast corner to equal the south side of the rear elevation. And then on the upstairs, we're gonna add 4 feet to the total height, which kept us under the amount allowed, and basically repeat the entire roof through the entire home. But the street side of the project is essentially the first thing we would do.
Oh, you need to, all right, so you want to do what, on the west side of the property first,
Yeah.
before you do what's on the east side of it?
Yes, but the water abatement, I mean, I've even given the one engineer that came out for the town to take a peek and to do some surveying, a video of just how the water flows. It's crazy.
And I remember, wasn't the owner of that apartment complex, he was willing to work with you too on that, right?
Yeah, I just talked to him the other day. We were actually clearing all the dead trees on the west side of that street.
Yeah.
We took down last weekend. Yeah, I mean, he's willing to, understand he's got a horrible water problem in the back of that property too, as a result of what's coming down that street.
And the only place for that water to go too is at the end of Truman Street, on the north side of the street, right? I mean, that's the lowest point of the street,
It
correct?
is, and it flows away. I mean, according to the topology map I downloaded from the county,
It flows where?
it does flow to the lake. That's where it goes, slowly. Like, for instance, if I have a big flooding issue and it stops raining, that water is gone in an hour, and it's going in between me and the neighbor out towards the lake. 4 inches of flow there, according to the topology map, but it
So-
goes.
To my understanding, if we gave him a variance, he still wouldn't be able to do it because there's nothing he can do about the water. That hasn't been fixed. So for me to rule on giving a variance doesn't make much sense until they solve that problem.
Right.
I mean, you could build and he can put his house there, but he's still gonna have a water flow problem. It doesn't matter what he does with it.
And I'm
Until
not-
they fix
I'm
it,
not
until they
gonna-
figure that out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything, and like I said, if it's a mutual, but then again, someone's gonna have to spend the time and energy and engineering to decide what to do. So, I'm good.
Whose responsibility is it to figure the correction of that problem out?
Property owners,
The property owner, even with the street?
private property, storm drainage problem, he's talking about the back, water flow back into the house. That's his problem. The road, the right of way is our problem.
Okay, and if I'm hearing right, if the road is lowered, this problem goes away.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, the road is crowned.
Well, somebody has to make a decision on what to do, so I don't know, did you have a solution in mind of how to get rid of the water in front of your garage?
Yeah, I have a couple ideas, but I don't know that that's really my responsibility to make that choice, because the road is crowned.
If the road's not crowned, it was built with the reverse driveway. Essentially what that means is the road was higher than the driveway.
Yeah.
Instead of building the house up with the driveway going up, they built the house down with the driveway going down. So the road hasn't been done in, I don't know how many years. Feedbell hasn't even done it, and Feedbell's been with us for many, many years at this point in time.
When was your house built?
Oh, man.
The house was built in the 1940s.
1940.
Thanks.
1946, if I
And then,
remember the report.
did you have a surveyor, shoot grade to see where your garage is versus the height of that road? I mean, that's your building, that you're doing addition, so obviously if the garage, the new garage floor, because you can't use what you got, is it gonna be higher than the road?
Well, we haven't really determined that because we don't know what the road's going to be, but even if you go up the street, every property owner, whoever put it in, put speed bumps so that the water doesn't flow
Like
down.
I said, that would, I mean, well, I'm just going on what you have to do.
Yeah.
So if your new height of of your garage floor is higher than the road, then you're not gonna have a water problem going in your house.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, people put driveways in houses that I can't believe they do.
But that's not true. At the south end of my property, the water comes down the road, rolls around my mailbox, and just flows like a river on the
How
south
to-
side of my home.
On the south side.
And what doesn't carry them down that turn goes into my garage.
And you think that, and then the road, you're getting that water because the way the grade is of the road or the grade of your yard?
It's both. I mean, I don't know when the last time they did the road is, but the road is clearly higher than the driveway.
I'll bet it's been done since 1946, though. So, whenever the road got done, probably created the issue.
Right. I mean, people put, drains in front of their garage door, especially like if you have a lower house and they like to drive down, so they'll put a trench drain across the drive
I've done
to
that
focus
before.
that water and to wherever the placement, but you want to be able to do it so you're not flooding the apartment complex next door
It
either.
it has to have a place to drain to.
Correct.
I did a drain like that in the last house I rehabbed on the lake in the center of my drive because of my elevation.
And how'd that work out for you?
It worked out great, but the volume at the bottom of this hill, I think.
That's the catch, that's the set, so, and if you don't, there's an issue there, but giving you a variance for any of this isn't gonna do you any good, I don't think. I mean, we can-
Well, I mean, I do need the variance to do the construction, but something needs to be done, and we all need to agree on what needs to be done with respect to the water.
Well, you agree, though, I wouldn't want to give you a variance now to start building on the
No.
left side of that house until you have to figure out where you're gonna do with this water then.
If I get the variance, I have 1 year to complete my project on a permit, so I'm crazy to accept it right now.
Who does he talk to about his ideas so we can move forward and go with his ideas to correct the problem?
Ashley Abernathy and Tim Kubiak.
Okay, so that's
I've been doing that.
that's the next step, because I don't want to see him back there until the problem's fixed.
Well, he cannot be issued, knowing what we know and what you have explored the last couple of months, he cannot be issued a permit. We have knowledge of the ground facts. We can't issue it. Issuing it is, there's a problem in that. We know it, we've explored it, need to find a solution. And I think, Eric, you're right, can't grant it really.
So, would you recommend that we, Jeff, take it off it, and redo it, or?
Would you consider continuing this thing for 3 months and let the appropriate communications be had? The engineers need to be involved, they need to be involved, including property owners. Find a solution.
And I've already made a decent investment, doing the notifications, I had the architect provide the renderings.
I completely understand.
Yeah. I've just been, I'm not pushing. I communicated with Tim. I talked to Ashley this morning about that again, that I had to be here today. I would just love to get the right minds out there to decide what we're gonna do.
The neighborhood needs to be reconstructed. Somebody needs to decide, it's a lakeside neighborhood, it's tributary to Cedar Lake, we're dredging Cedar Lake, and these probably should have already been in the plan to be reconstructed, but that's the solution. That
Yeah.
area needs to be reconstructed with the correct stormwater infrastructure to not only get the water to the lake where it belongs, but get it in such a way that it's there clean.
Yeah, understood.
That's the solution.
And I completely agree. I mean, for the year I owned it, before I even lived there, I didn't even realize this problem was going on because the house was just vacant. I saw some wetness in the garage, but had never really been there until I moved there. So, I just want to have a good meeting of the minds with respect to it. I don't mind my involvement. I got a great plumber who puts structures in, but I can't be having a plumber put a structure in on your property
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
to take the water away, you know? So,
Okay, well, are you agreeable to the proposed timeline of a 90-day break, or do you think,
if something can happen in that interim over the next 30 to 60 days, I think that maybe we can just get it, you know, re-entered into this, if that's the case. I don't know how fast it will be, but, yeah.
What's
I'm
the,
just
I'm
waiting.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just waiting to hear from Tim as to what is the final decision about what we're gonna do. I mean, if we partner in it, whatever that case, I've been very candid.
What's the, reason for the 5-foot setback off the road? What is that? Because
So-
we're off the road more than that right now.
So I can fit a couple vehicles in the garage. I can't even fit a standard 18, 17-foot vehicle in the garage.
How deep is that? Because you got about a 2.5, or is that a 3-car garage? What do you consider that? Looks like a 2-door.
It's a 2.5 at the face,
Okay,
but the depth of it, I'm pretty sure they put that whole addition of the garage with the upstairs on without permits maybe years ago, and that's how that evolved.
a car won't fit in there? A whole car doesn't go in there?
The car doesn't fit his garage and it doesn't fit his driveway.
Right.
Well, I mean, he's got 18 feet according to this
It's a
print.
dead-end street.
And then adding
Yeah.
another 4 feet, he's only, that gives him, what is that, 22 feet? With the addition part, the part that's highlighted in yellow. So his garage right now is only 18 feet deep.
That's about right, and that's pretty much what a standard vehicle is these days.
When he originally submitted, he submitted with just a, boundary survey that showed that he had about 14 feet from the front to the
Straight?
from the front of the house to the street. When the stake survey was done to determine the actual amount of how far the front of the house is from the street, it came back at 8.03. So what he was asking for was to reduce it from 14 feet to 5 feet. If that variance was granted, just so you're aware, it would put the house approximately 0 feet from the road, which could pose public safety issues for plowing. If they're plowing in the winter and they hit the house, if there's already that water issue and we put that house to the road, how can we ever actually do any improvements in the future?
And that's from the center of the street, right? That 5 feet? Center?
No, that's from the property line.
Property
Probably
line.
14 feet from the center of the street.
Okay.
So it's from the edge of the street, which is abutting the property to the front of the house,
Yeah.
is at 8.03 feet.
Okay. That would be another concern I would have till you get past the water piece, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm looking for every inch I can get there.
Well, I think I'd like to make a motion that we defer this for 3 months, and in that time period, the petitioner here meets with Tim, Ashley, engineer, whoever is necessary to come up with a solution to this problem, so that he can come back before us and see about his variances. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
all right, motion been made by John, excuse me, seconded by Greg to defer this variance requests for a period of 3 months. Any questions on the motion?
Just so you're aware, that would put it at the October 12th meeting.
Any other concerns? Everybody good? Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capura?
Yes.
Mr. Bundy?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Yes, sir.
Second item, under old business, Nathan Viss, vicinity of 11700 West, 126th Avenue in Cedar Lake. This developmental variance is to allow the construction of an accessory structure with an overall height of 22 feet with an exterior wall height of 15 feet. This is a continued item from last month, I believe.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, and we have submitted proof of publication to your attorney. I believe all is in good order.
Record should reflect he nailed it.
Second time's the charm. We are seeking this evening a developmental variance for an accessory structure. I believe Ms. Abernathy probably provided to the board some pictures of what we're looking to do with our family in our backyard. Kind of the final phase of what we're looking to do here is build a pool house / shed on the back side of the property, an entertainment venue, as well as to provide a second story for an area for our children to play and gather, especially as they get older. We've got 4 children. Our home was built originally, if you were to drive past it, there's a 1-story section in 1953, and then built adjacent to it in the 1980s, a 2-story structure. The 1-story structure has a 6/12 pitch with its roof line. The 2-story structure has a 4/12 pitch with its roof line. And what we're looking to build in the backyard is a 24 by 32 shed with a gambrel style roof. The reason for that is both it's aesthetically pleasing, really to put a 6/12 or a 4/12 pitch on that, from my wife's perception, wouldn't be as aesthetically pleasing, as well as the gambrel style really maximizes that second story and enables the roof lines to flow out with an overhang towards the pool, as well as then eventually an outdoor kitchen area that we're looking to build. Submitted to you a couple of pictures of what the proposed development would look like. Those are actually from a gentleman that I have met that lives south of here on Route 41, south of Kentland. Built a gambrel style on his property. Got pictures, site designs from him, and that's what we're looking to replicate in our backyard. Your code does allow for a roof height to exceed 16 feet. The way that your code is designed, it indicates that accessory structure can only be a maximum of 16 feet. However, it does indicate in there if it were to match the roof peak lines of your existing home, then you can go much higher. And as I've shared, a 4/12 or a 6/12 pitch line for kind of what we're proposing to build just doesn't seem to make sense. So what we're requesting this evening is a developmental variance for an overall height of 22 feet with an exterior wall height of 15 feet.
What style of roof do you have in your house?
It is a 4/12 pitch and a 6/12 pitch. If you want, I can show you a picture.
No.
There's one on the screens. Should be on there.
The one on the screen is kind of how they want the accessory structure to look.
I see a house with
Yeah,
a
there's-
2-story and a single-story.
There should be one, yeah, that's taken from the far corner looking
Oh, yeah.
towards the pad, correct.
The
Yep,
last
that's
picture
correct,
that's
Mr.
all.
Jackson.
So what's the peak height of that second-story house? How high is that one right now?
It's a little over 30 feet,
Okay.
yeah. So this would fall approximately 8 feet below that height.
And you're on over 2 acres?
We are about 2.7 acres. We had an original set of acreage, and we purchased the lot in back. There was a roadway in between our 2 lots on the back side of the lot that the town council vacated, I believe, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. So we're still about 1,000 square feet short of what a backyard accessory structure could be.
You would have water and bathroom and that in this?
No bathroom. I thought about it, but there will be no bathroom. Gas and water is already piped out directly adjacent to it. That was all approved back when the pool structure was put in, so that is adjacent to it.
So there's no bathroom, no kitchen,
No bathroom. Nope.
Showers?
Nope.
No, not even a shower?
No. I guess I wasn't thinking far enough ahead. I thought about it, but that might be another variance that I come back to you for, to put an addition on the back side of my house where our bathroom is. So we've got mainly boys, so we decided that we don't need bathrooms up there.
So the existing slab that's here now is what they're gonna build on?
Correct. So I was planning ahead, that slab was put in, it was trench poured, didn't need to be at that point. I was thinking that we would only go 16 feet. Then after the fact, as we kind of worked our way through everything and I saw that design, realized that we wanted to go up to a second story really to maximize play area.
So you have a trench all the way around?
Yeah, it's already out there, yep.
What percentage of the property is that gonna take up now, do we? You're still at that 25? or-
Oh, he was far under the
Okay.
25%.
I assume so. There's no other outbuildings there, right?
There is one small other outbuilding, it's 8 by 12.
Okay.
The north side.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions at this time?
I don't.
You might give us just a second while we call for. Do we have any remonstrators for this variance? Anyone here for? Do we have any remonstrators? Yes, sir.
I have a question, a couple questions. Jared Wilken, 10826 West 131st Avenue. What Mr. Viss wants to do sounds like a pretty good idea. I don't see the hardship for the 15-foot sidewalls if he's looking for maximum attic space. However, is there any way that building can be separated from the property and accessed from a public roadway? No? Okay. I hate to see another man cave for sale, or a kid cave, like we have at a Chamber of Commerce building. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other remonstrators for or against? Anybody online, Ashley?
No one online, nothing written.
No written correspondence? We'll close the public portion of this hearing. All right, extend it.
I was trying to say what the hardship was to 15-foot walls, just because these are typically decided on hardships. So, does that meet the requirements of a hardship?
It's up to you. Colfax Bay, talking 2.7 acres, Nathan?
Yes, that's correct.
2.7 acres, pretty significantly sized parcel, and all of this fits.
But because it's a significantly sized parcel, it doesn't necessarily have to be that tall. It could have a bigger footprint.
Well, again, that's a call for you based upon the facts. Proportionality is a factor that comes into play in assessment. Coverage here is far under 25%, our maximum. Basic use of the property, kind of R1 family residential property.
No, Mr. Park, that's a good question. Something I actually spoke about with Ms. Abernathy, and while the 15 feet sidewall might think that that's significant, on the left side, that does face the neighbor that'd be to the west. The gambrel style is going to slope down over that 15 foot and cover about 3 feet. So in essence, it's only going to appear as if it's 12. There'll be landscaping along that side. My plan is redwood deciduous trees. On the right side that's facing the pool, the plan is to run the side of the roof line into an overhang that then slopes to about 10 feet off of the pool deck. So again, on that side, the slope will not be exposed, that 15-foot sidewall. In essence, it's 10 feet for the first floor, and then you have about 4.5, 5 feet that extends up into your second floor before you get your gambrel barn-style roof rafters. Yeah, this is definitely not accessible from the roadway. It's only accessible from the house. It sits about 30 to 20 feet off of the house, so easily accessible off the back. And the hardship definitely is that we could go if we were to match the existing roof line, but then what you'd have is basically a white shuttered shed next to an entertainment area that just doesn't seem to fit what the venue is calling for. So for that reason, it's a hardship. I'm requesting that we be allowed, instead of gambrel style roofing that doesn't match up with the existing roof line for the homeowner.
So that peak is 16, right? The house, the one you're proposing, that's 16 to that point?
Right. You come, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
See what you're looking at.
Just got that photo right there. So are we talking to that height, or
So the 22 feet would get to that.
that's your 22? Okay.
That's correct. So then, with what I'm proposing, you would have a slope off the side
Okay.
of the pool.
As well.
You've got that drops down on the far side, and actually, your 15 feet extends up into the roof line.
Yeah, okay.
So you really only have about 12 feet that's showing, which is below. And then actually, towards the side that's gonna face towards the house, we'll have a roof line that matches that, just juts out about 15 feet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is it gonna have the cupola on it?
If I could see what you're looking at, Mr. Parker.
Looking at that, that's the one you're designing it after, correct?
Yes, correct.
Is it gonna have that cupola on top of the roof?
No, that will not happen, no. Nope. But it will have the Cape Cod style windows on both sides.
So your proposed structure is going to be a virtual replica of the one that's provided here?
Correct. The only difference is going to be, as Mr. Parker asked, there will be no cupola that's on the top, that's people looking.
Right.
And then, in an effort to meet your code, which allows for a height variance in excess of 16 feet, we would have white siding. There would be a limestone finish for the two sides that face the pool and the house area, and then brown shutters to match the house, our existing home. And that is what your code requires if you're going to have a height that exceeds 16 feet.
You gonna have exposed ceilings in that upstairs?
I'd like to. The plan that I looked at from the gentleman down south had beautiful black walnut and a stainless steel style that I'm hoping to replicate.
Why do you need that height inside?
Inside, sure, good question. That'll allow, by the time we get to the actual second story, about 9 feet, 8.5, 9 feet in the middle. When you get to the sides, about 6.5, 7 feet to allow for the play gathering area upstairs.
So you really couldn't shrink that down any lower?
I could maybe a foot, but then you're starting to look at about 8.5 feet right in the middle, and then your sides are 5.5 and really shrinking your area, so.
Did you finish your administrators?
I did finish from Montrose.
I think that there was a question, I thought about going a wider footprint on the ground, but we actually have a sand volleyball court back. I'm trying to preserve as much green space as possible back there, so this just seemed to make sense to fit the width of the pool.
You gonna sell memberships?
We'll invite you over, Jeff.
You're a diehard volleyball player.
Yeah. I know. So I broke my leg earlier this year, so I don't know if I play too much volleyball back there now.
Board recommendations or department recommendations?
We had no outstanding comments on this one. They're currently meeting all setbacks, so they're gonna maintain the amount of setback needed from the pool, from the house, rear and side property line. They're well under lot coverage and what's allowable by accessory structure size. This would put him at a second accessory structure, so if he wanted to ever do anything different, he would have to tear down one or ask you guys for another variance, which would then, you'd be creating your own hardship at that point in time, Nathan. But other than that, there was no major concerns or comments given to me by any of my building inspectors on this one.
Has the 2+ acres changed wall heights at all?
We set wall height at 10 across the board. It changes the height allowable,
The height, but not the wall height?
the height but not the wall height.
Really, Mr. Kapira, a different way of looking at this could be it's either a sidewall height and a total roof height, or it's just a variance for the roof style. Because if I were to match the existing roof pitch line of my home, either a 412 or a 612, I would need to be before you. Your code automatically allows for me to build up to, as long as I don't exceed the height of my home. So what I'm looking for is just a different, unique roof line style, and because of that, it requires a height variance and a sidewall variance is required. I missed that.
So the height of your existing house is higher than this
Yes,
structure?
by over 8 feet, yeah, yes.
He's at 30 on his current house. So he's asking for 22. But you're right, you're allowed to go 30, it's just your wall height thing is,
Yeah, my roof line is different, is what's going on.
yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the overall height, and I like the look of the structure, but I guess I just don't see any hardship in the 15-foot wall heights.
And the height of that roof, of that wall is just to support that gambrel roof.
Correct, correct.
As that wall runs up to catches probably the roof joist on it.
That's correct. If I could approach Mr. Career, the alternative is, yeah, we could drop the roof to 10 feet, but that would just add additional truss length then to the trusses, would be the alternative. So if this were to be dropped down, what it would just add is additional length to this first run of your gambrel style. And that's the uniqueness of the design, is the wall height and gambrel style kind of work in together.
I was just seeing what the necessity of the height of that wall was, and to me, it's part structural.
Correct.
Because it looks like you're only gonna have 8 foot inside.
By the time you get done with your cross beams across the top, your laminated beams across the first floor, and your beams up top, that's correct. So I'm really compressing as much as possible in this request.
That's all I wanna know.
Okay, anybody else have any more questions, concerns? Mr. Parker? This is a developmental variance, so this would be a board decision. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the developmental variance to allow the construction of accessory structure with an overall height of 22 feet and an interior wall height of 15 feet per the finding of facts.
I'll second it.
Motion been made by John, seconded by Ray to approve. Grant? Any questions on the motion?
Sir?
Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capura?
Yes.
Mr. Bunting?
No. Passes with a split vote of 3-2.
Do I need to submit proposed findings of fact for the board, for Ms. Abernathy?
We have them, they've been presented to us, we're all pretty well.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Item number 1, under new business, petitioner Jeffrey Schilling, vicinity of 8328 West 147th Avenue, Cedar Lake. This developmental variance is allows the petitioner to construct a detached garage in the front yard setback of a residential property with a maximum size of 1,188 square feet and a maximum wall height of 15 feet. Mr. Austin?
Legal's in order for the public hearing.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jack Hulls. I'm with DVG, representing the petitioner this evening. Submitted some paperwork to Ashley in that regard this afternoon.
Excuse me, Jack. I'm sorry, excuse me. The record should know there's a power of attorney, limited power of attorney for Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, sorry, I said paperwork, but I should have said power of attorney. So this parcel is on the south side of the lake, off of 147th, and the petitioner is seeking to install or place a garage accessory structure in the front yard of this parcel. Because it's along the lake, it's very traditional, or very common to see accessory structures placed in the front yard, even though the front yard many times is considered the lake side, and we wouldn't want to put accessory structures there. On this particular parcel, the house is about in the middle. It's a little over an acre parcel, and we're seeking to mimic the architectural style of the building, of the primary structure, which has a single pitch roof. So there's not what you would see a gable or a hip roof. This is a single pitch roof, and so your maximum wall height comes into play because that side of the tall side of that single pitch roof is much higher than the back side, and that would be the front side of the garage. We're seeking the variance to be placed in the front yard. We're seeking the variance on that wall height, and then we're seeking a variance on the size for the accessory structure. And so we don't feel, regarding the findings of fact, we don't feel that this is going to have a negative impact on the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. Similarly, we do not feel that this is going to have a negative impact on the adjacent property owners' property values. There are similar accessory structures placed on adjacent properties. We feel that this is going to add value to this property, and also will, as you increase property values, you increase your adjacent properties owner if you're not doing things outside the bounds of what would be reasonable. And then some of the hardships that we face, I know that's a concern of you. First off, as I mentioned, the lake presents a hardship for us because that would be the backyard technically, because our public road is in the front. But we would not want to place an accessory structure for parking on the lake side. We would like to keep that on the street side. So that's a hardship. And then also for 147th is a narrow, unimproved street in the town of Cedar Lake. So there's not any available on-street parking. And as you know, as growing families, at some point they're going to have kids and they're going to have cars, and all of a sudden you've got lots of vehicles sitting around your property, and having a place to park those vehicles is important. So those are the hardships that we feel that this are presented by the property as it relates to your ordinances, and so we are seeking these variances, and we feel that this will be a good asset.
Now, that house is relatively new, isn't it, like the last 10 years or so? Yeah, it is, and so I think scale and proportion is another one of those things that, so your zoning codes allows us to consider these types of things. As it relates to architecture and scale and proportion, the house height is 47 feet. So as it relates to this garage, we're asking for 15 feet. It's less than a third of the height of the primary structure. The architecture and the finishes all match on this garage structure as the primary structure. It also sits behind a berm. So we're 67, 65, somewhere in that range, off of the public right-of-way. So it's not like we're asking to be 5 feet, 10 feet off of the public right-of-way. We're way off the road, behind a berm. So this is not something that's going to be visually... What's the lot square footage again, Jay?
It's just over an acre. So I want to say it's 1.01, so it's probably in the 4,500 square foot. Or 45,000, excuse me.
So it's over 43,000?
It is, yes, it is over an acre.
There are still different guidelines for property over an acre. I mean, technically, he could be asking to build a pole barn there, correct?
Yes.
And then your neighbor 4 houses down, they have a garage in front of their house.
Correct, and that's what I was saying, is that there's adjacent property owners that have a similar accessory structure, similarly located.
All four of these houses were, no, they were built,
I think-
yours was the last one, but the other three were kind of built very similar, so.
Correct.
Not too far back.
What was
So
that?
that, the house that
Built
he
about
represents.
2017?
Oh, gosh,
The house that he's representing?
yeah, I would say, yeah, 2017, 2018.
I would say,
Somewhere in that range.
I would say only 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause I was here, for that, because we had some variances related to the
That's where I
house.
looked, that's.
And,
Yeah, I remember that,
Yeah.
Garage you go right.
2018 according to the
We
We also
report.
did site plan approval through the plan commission, so there was some-
And this is gonna have a carport on it?
Where?
Whatever the petition it shows, I
Picture
believe.
shows a carport,
Yeah,
and a three-car garage?
I believe it is a 4.
4.
So there's two.
Four? I
Two
can't
double
see
doors.
it.
It's a 4-car garage.
Okay.
Is the carport allowable in the current zoning ordinance?
Carport, an attached carport may be permitted over a driveway and a side yard provided such structure is not more than 1 story high in height and 25 feet in length and is entirely open on at least 3 sides, except for the necessary supporting columns and
That's why you designed it
architectural.
that way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ted Roan is the architect on this, and he's, lives in Cedar Lake, is familiar with your zoning code, so I'm sure that there was some consideration. Again, the height is primarily related to that, the architectural feature of the structure, so with that
It looks like a
single
really
brick
Floyd
edge.
Wright house theory type.
What, I'm
It
sorry?
looks like similar to what a Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah,
theory
exactly.
house would look like.
All right, 15 foot is at the front of the house. So
So that's the front of the garage, correct. The back of the garage,
Is how high?
it unfortunately wasn't mentioned on the plans that I received, but it did say it was a 212 pitched roof, and it's 26 feet long, so that puts it at about, a couple feet lower, I think it's 3 something, so it's probably in the 12-foot range on the backside. I can't do math that fast, I tried to, but I'm gonna get it wrong.
How much property does this take up with that house on there?
So this is roughly 1,200 square feet, it's 1188 is what the petition is asking for. 43,550, 4,400 square feet, 45,000, excuse me. So, again, quick math. 1%?
Is that over?
4,000 would be 1%, so it's.
It's still under the minimum lot.
Yeah.
25?
it's-
Oh, yeah, they were well under
I
that.
mean, with a lot that big, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
So there is a correction then. When I calculated under the 43,000 square feet, that's why the 1,100 is in. If it's over 1 acre, you're allowed a 1,600 square foot maximum accessory structure size. That was a calculation error on my part. So that's if the lot is over an acre, as Jack is saying, that 1,188 square feet, it wouldn't be needed because they're allowed up to 1,600.
So the acre, the size of the garage is immaterial to this petition?
When it's 1.01 acres to 2 acres, it's 1,600 square feet.
I'm not, 6,800?
1,600.
1,600, I'm sorry.
Yes.
68 would be nice, but
We'll
take 1,600.
If it's a garage structure, it still has to have.
So the garage, so,
A 36-inch footing, perimeter footing, if it's over 770 square feet, am I right?
Correct.
yeah, I saw the foundation plans for this, it's a full
Yeah,
foundation.
anything over 200, we make them do a monolithic pour anyway.
A monolithic, yeah, but this one would require
Yeah.
36
Yeah,
inch.
The inspectors
it's
will
got
look at that
traditional
and
spread
say
footing,
that.
like a house.
Yeah, and then if you wanted to do a pole barn, then you wouldn't have to do that, but he would be limited to a square footage.
Right.
A maximum
Yeah,
square
this
footage.
is traditional home type.
It is, and I think it meets the requirement of a hardship because it's a lakefront property. You're not gonna be able to get it next to the house or behind the house.
Right.
Because the lot square footage is the lot square footage, the lot square footage, as big as it is, I think it makes sense.
That carport is between the house and the garage?
Correct.
It's on that,
Yeah, it's not.
east side?
It's not on the street side.
Okay.
So, the street side is the south, the house or the lake side would be the north, so it would be on the north side, so you wouldn't see it. The carport then.
I'm having a hard time with the hardship piece, though. The rest of it makes sense, but, he's got a pretty good sized garage there now, it seems, right? Looks like it's pretty sizable.
Yeah, I believe there's
That lot driveway's
Is
pretty
it all,
long.
that looks to be also for four-car garage, existing?
right, so, I mean, there's multiple cars related with the family, and then it is lakefront property, so in the wintertime, you're gonna have things like a dock. He doesn't store his dock on the lakefront, he stores that in the garage. I believe there's a pontoon boat, possibly a speedboat. You know, the typical things that you would see on lakefront properties, and it does necessitate additional garage space. So I don't believe that it's unreasonable that, you know, if this was a single-family home in a traditional lot subdivision, yeah, that's probably a little unreasonable, but in this
Because it's in
particular case,
excess of 1 acre, I would rather see this than see a pole barn over there.
yeah, I mean, that is the alternative.
Get a full
is to
permit
just
for a
put
pole barn
barn.
for an accessory building and have no questions asked, he's building it. So,
How does a pole barn override that, though, it's still in the front yard, isn't that
it
considered?
doesn't matter where it's at, it's, as long as he's got 43,560 square feet and he's under the maximum square footage of the outbuilding, he can build it.
He still would need a variance for the front yard.
I would think so.
Right.
One day you can just drop pole barns in your front yard.
Yeah, so, I think the hardship, so your zoning code says that an accessory structure cannot be placed in front of the primary structure. And in this particular case, there's no way to put an accessory structure in the backyard because of the location of the house. Now, and would you want to have an accessory structure on the lakefront? It's much preferred from the lake to have that be your front yard. And many times people, you know, when my grandparents had a lake house and they would consider that their front yard. You know, you would enter through the backyard even though that was where the street was. And so, from a technical standpoint, your zoning code presents a hardship for this property, and that's why we're seeking that variance.
Hardship is not the criteria, however.
It's
The
one.
practical difficulty is the criteria. Practical difficulties are somewhat self-made in this instance, unless you decide otherwise. And, for example, they built a smaller house on this lot, and they had more room, it wouldn't be any difficult. The size of the home covers the space it covers, and now we're in a position where you're evaluating subsequent improvements, and there may be practical difficulties, but that's the criteria, not hardship. Hardship belongs to use variance. This is developmental variance.
Right, yeah, I was just answering one of the, findings of fact. And it seems like hardship was a word that is frequently used.
It seems like I'm constantly getting.
But it does say.
Which is good.
Practical
I appreciate
difficulties. The zoning code, presents practical difficulties, so.
I mean, I guess if he was planning on slipping this in, how long's the house been there, 8, 10 years?
No, that long.
Yeah, he's not, I don't,
Five.
not planning on moving.
I understand he's not planning on moving, but I would say if he had intentions, when he built the house, that he was gonna add a garage later, and, he was just gonna slip that in 5 years later, I could see, you know,
I did the site plan for him, that was not contemplated at that time.
I'm sure it wasn't, because if it was, I'm sure he would've built it at the time.
I think if you haven't been on lake property, you don't realize what it takes to support like property, and then you...
There's never enough ground to support lake property.
Exactly, you know,
In this case, there
you
is.
put your docks in for 4 years and 4 months of the year, and then you gotta put them somewhere, because they can't stay in the lake. You know, so these are the types of things we're...
Actually, is swimming pool considered part of the property occupancy, right?
The lot coverage?
Yeah,
No,
no, swimming pool's not included.
no. It's not considered part of a primary structure.
Okay.
What we consider for lot coverage is the primary structure and accessory structure.
Okay.
What would prevent him from adding that to his existing garage?
So that is an option to do. There's, as you probably recall from when we did that, when we did the site plan, there's a tremendous amount of grade change on this property, so the finished floor of that garage is probably 5-6 feet higher than what the grade of this garage is gonna be. So to extend into that area, you know, I mean, that's something that's plausible for him to do if this is denied, that he would choose to do that.
Well, it looks like the well would be pretty close to an extension of the garage.
Right.
Okay. Might have a seat from there if you have a moment to present. Do we have any remonstrators for this variance? Any remonstrators for? Any remonstrants against? Any remonstrators against? Ashley, anybody online or
No one online, nothing written.
close the public portion of this hearing? Thanks, Jenny. Building department?
Similar to the last, there's no outstanding comments from the building department. They're well under lot coverage. They're meeting setback requirements. It's just the size of the front wall size, the front setback, and now that Jeff told me it's over an acre, that last one comes off. We like the fact that it is matching an architectural style of the existing structure.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Any other board discussion, comments?
No, sir.
Practical difficulty, correct?
Yes.
I mean, we struggle with these garages in the front yards quite often, so I'm just trying to figure out, like, where do we, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I particularly don't like the structure in the front yard, but, you know, do I wrap my head around, you know, the practical difficulty thing now? I mean, the building goes from lot line to lot line, east to west. And, you know, I kinda agree with Greg, is that if, you know, if they thought the space was going to be an issue when they built the structure 5-6 years ago, or however long it was ago, why didn't they address that concern at that time?
Afterthought.
Or, you know, Junior wanted to have a jet ski, you know, his daughter wants to drive on a pontoon, and the wife likes to have a speedboat. I mean, you're basing it on toys. Well, he didn't, when he went to build the house, he didn't have enough room for his toys, now he wants a place to put his stuff at. I mean, his house, 4 houses down have one in front of their house. They have one in the front yard.
I remember that one too.
There must have been a variance granted for that.
I'm sure there was.
If it was just a residential lot in a subdivision, it would give me some pause for the practical difficulty to put a garage in the front yard. This is a massive piece of property, a massive piece of lakefront property, which is very unusual, it's just an unusual situation.
As I brought up with the last variance request, this is a developmental variance, so this is a decision that is made by this board.
Are there any reasonable conditions that would help you make your decision? You may impose a location, site, plan, check off. Size.
Right. I'm more stuck on the front, because I mean, I know the neighbor has it, but then when do we finally, like, stop using the neighbors? And I'm just trying to understand, like, how do we tell somebody no next time and yes, and that's where I get lost at. So, I mean, if you attached it, right, then this wouldn't be a conversation, I don't think.
Be an issue.
Right.
It would depend on what the attached size would then become, because we only allow a maximum of 1,100 square feet for
attached?
attached. So if we're wanting to attach an 1,188 square foot garage to an existing garage, we're well exceeding that requirement.
But you still need a variance.
Yeah.
So maybe to give some thought on your concerns. So in this zoning, the front yard building setback would be 30 feet. This garage is proposed at 67 feet back from the front setback. So if the house had been situated differently, this would be in the backyard. So comparatively, so I think there's a structure or two next door to the west, that would be different. So if you look at all the properties to the east, all of those properties are similarly located, they're actually long, narrow lot. This lot is 400 feet deep. So to, get what would be, good lake access, the house is located where it makes sense on the lot to put it up near the lake, not 400 feet away or 350 feet away from the lake. And again, I really think the lake is the hardship. And it's immaterial really what the size of the house, or could we get around the house or not. Would you really want to have an accessory structure, a garage, a pole barn, perhaps, on the lakefront? That does not seem to be the place that you would want to kind of tell people that that's where they have, if they want to have a garage, that's an accessory structure, which is allowed, that's where you want them to put them. I think that locating, if this was a different circumstance, the lake was not involved, that argument would not fly, and I would completely get that. But in this particular situation, the lake does present a challenge to this property, and I think this is the best use, that we put the garage in this area. And your zoning code, unfortunately, doesn't have a caveat that would allow us to do that, so that's why we're here.
This house here, we're in the garage. It was in subresidential, it wasn't on the lake. We had a two-car garage on the house, and its front yard.
I know we've done it.
So, I mean, the guy has an existing garage, he has his That's what he put it in. We have those attached garages all over the top.
So I think some reasonable conditions, I think if you kind of put that out there, architecturally, material, all this matches the house. So, if you look at that house, it's stone, wood siding, it's got, it's a pretty distinct architecture. All of those same finishes are gonna be used on this structure. This is not go buy a garage, and, you know, this is not cheap construction or inexpensive construction. This is gonna be, something, you know, it's gonna be a nice garage. You know, it is still a garage, but it's gonna be, a nice asset. Just from a building standpoint, building setback standpoint, we're no closer to the property line on that east side than the house is. So we intentionally put that in line with the house. So there's no it's not like we could go with an accessory structure to, I believe it's 5 feet off the 6 feet off of the adjacent property line. Didn't feel that would be a right placement of the property on the site. We have berming on the front, in the front yard, so.
Do you plan on putting any landscaping on the south side of that garage? Or could he?
We could, you know, if you want
Just to kind of hide it a little?
yeah, if you want to have some additional landscaping placed on that south side or on the berm, we could do something like that.
Nobody wants to get their feet wet, huh?
No, he didn't ask, I've been waiting.
Well, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept this variance to allow the person to project a detached garage in the front yard setback of residence property with a maximum size of 1,188 square feet with a maximum wall height of 15 feet to find in the front with approval of the back.
So, if I could just interject, you included in the motion the square footage, but the zoning code allows for a little bit more than that, so we could just omit that.
Just delete that then?
Yeah.
And we'll just do off the maximum height then? That's all you need?
The wall height
Height in the front yard.
And then the front yard.
Front yard.
Just what's necessary for this.
There you go.
Okay, motion's been made,
I'll still second it.
and still seconded by Mr. Parker. To Grant, any questions on the motion? Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
No.
Mr. Capora?
Yes.
Mr. Bundy?
No. Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you very much for your time.
Item number 2, under new business, Kramer Developmental Variance in the vicinity of 150-37 Cary Street, Cedar Lake. This developmental variance has allowed petitioner to construct a deck on the rear of the residential structure 5 feet from the property line to be consistent with the existing house setback. Mr. Austin?
Label's in order for the public hearing.
Mr. Kramer? Ms. Kramer? Do we have a petitioner present?
I'm not seeing her present.
No correspondence or nothing from them?
No, she made sure she got me everything, made sure she got everything advertised in time. She was anxious to be able to get here and in front of the board to see what your decision was and potentially pull her permit.
Okay,
Want to go to the next item?
okay, moving to the, anybody have any problems moving it to the end of the?
Nope. No, sir.
Okay. All right, okay, to be continued. Item number 3, developmental variance, James Caliano. The vicinity of 7212 West 136th Place. This developmental variance is to allow the petitioner to construct a new home with a height of approximately 33 feet, 8 inches. Mr. Oshens, everything in order?
No, I think there's an issue here. Actually, is this the one? Is this the one?
This is the one that Brian...
Right, is this the one with the notice issue?
No, I don't think it's
I think those are in order.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Jim Taliano, current or the one I'm building on?
I suppose right now for current.
940 Foxwood Drive in Munster, Indiana.
Okay.
We're here to get a 3-foot 8-inch variance for the height of our house. There's no issues with the public health safety for the height, no issues with the adjacent properties. There's no blocking views of the lake. We're off the lake, and to the other side, there's no view anyway. The hardship mainly would be if we lowered the pitch, then we feel that a lower pitch wouldn't be structurally sound for snow load in the wintertime with the size of the roof. And additionally, it would also require, completely removing the roof, and I didn't even know this was an issue until after the roof was already put on. The plans that we had initially submitted we actually shrunk the house 3 feet from those plans. So I didn't know this was an issue until we were told. And that was after the roof was already on.
So you had initially proposed a building 36 feet high?
It said 30 feet 2 inches based on the architect, but the architect used the definition in the back, which I believe stated for a gable roof was the mean between the eaves and the ridge. And that's what it was always based off of. And we didn't know that there was a difference until I was told.
Are we allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
So who built the house?
A lot of pieces. I had a project manager on the case because I'm far away, and he's been since let go after all these issues started popping up. But everything else, the initial plans that were submitted that were approved, if you look, the first floor started, I believe it was 4 feet up. The whole purpose of the design was when you come in the garage, it's a couple steps down to the basement. Her mother is going to be coming in as she's getting older, and it was only 3 steps down. We wanted it to not feel like a basement, windows partially above ground so you could see and everything. The first floor was 9 feet. The second floor was supposed to be 9. I actually shrunk that. The initial plans also had the gable running the lawn direction, so I believe it was 26 feet to center with a 612 or 712 pitch from those plans. We actually turned it so that the center is only 18 feet, so that shrunk it another couple feet. So I know that the changes we made, because I knew it was close to 30 feet 2 inches from, I guess, the wrong top based off the definition that was considered. I thought we were completely fine with those changes because I knew it was close and I didn't want it to be an issue. So we did change it by at least 3 feet with those changes.
Who changed it?
We changed it while we were going to make sure that it wasn't an issue.
So the plan that you submitted,
We shrunk it.
let's go through this here. So the plan that you submitted to the town, that you were actually going to build, okay, you submitted that plan, you started building the house, and while you were building it, you changed the height of the house while you were building it, after you got approved plans?
Shortened it, yes.
You sure? And
We
did
just
you-
changed the
And
date.
then did you get okay from the inspector to do that? Or did you go upon yourself to start changing off that print?
I would have to ask and see if he did during that time. If he had asked. Did he call in and ask at all?
It's not on our inspectors to call and ask you if you update your plans. It's on you as the property owner and the general contractor for the project to submit any alterations or changes to your plans to the inspector for review and approval.
I mean, the concept is if you build, I submitted plans to build a 1,500 square foot house on X lot. And then while I was building it, I decided it wasn't big enough, so I'm now gonna make it 1,800 square foot. But you did the opposite, you shrunk it, you said.
Correct.
The height of it.
Correct.
And you shrunk it off, it's not as tall as what the original
Correct.
plan says?
Correct. 'Cause if you base it off of what it says on there, the height, the building top was based off of, you can even see where the building line is on those plans, that he put the 30 feet 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
It shows right at the mean between the eaves and the ridge line.
And that was on the approval of the plans that were originally supposed to house, the original house plans that were supposed to be built.
What
The height of that.
Yes, the building top.
And now it's, instead of being that 30, it's 28?
It's 33.8, but that's what I'm saying, when it was sent in, the architect had it listed at the mean, so it's actually, it would have been, if you're going to the peak, the very top, it would have been like 36 feet something.
And that's what's on the plan?
The plan says the mean from the definition in the back of the town ordinance, or definition of it.
I'm confused. The plan wouldn't have got approved being over 30 feet tall to the peak, right?
The building permit shows 30 feet at the height. When we're reviewing plans, the inspector views the bulk requirements that's listed in the zoning ordinance, which is that 30 feet.
Right.
So from 12 inches below top of foundation.
Right.
So when they're reviewing that plan and they're saying that it's showing that 30 feet on the plans, they're assuming that whoever has submitted these plans has followed our bulk requirements. It then came up that they used a definition, which our definitions does say that those are just that, and the more stricter requirement applies. In this case, that's our bulk requirements of 30 feet from 12 inches below top of foundation peak.
So I'm trying to figure out how we started at 36 and then messed up, dropped it, lowered it to 30. We're still trying to figure out how we crossed that 30.
Up to, if the original plans, if you looked, I believe it said the, let's see, 4, 10, 24 feet, I believe, would have been the top. I don't have the plans in front of me, I'm trying to remember from memory. So at a 27-foot run to the center with a 612 or 712, whatever it was, there's no way to make that 6 feet, because that would have been the difference. So it actually was 12 feet if you did that run. So it was based off of the definition in the back. 6 feet at 27 feet, well, I don't even know what that run would be, but I think that would be even under a 412 for the main.
Maybe right, maybe 412 exactly.
I
So,
think it's close. What, do you have anything to support that, a less drastic pitch would structurally support? Just,
Here, let me make a comment here. All roof structures are built to BOCA, a standard building code of America or local building codes. Your dead load on a roof is to be built at a minimum of 15 pounds per square foot. The live load, which would be snow, people walking on it, equipment the guy brings up there, what have you, is your live load. That is to be built at 20 pounds per square foot. So your load on the roof is 35 pounds per square foot, regardless of pitch. Pitch has nothing to do with the strength of the roof. Pitch is just how fast the water gets off the roof. So,
I knew you were gonna know the answer to that.
Very good. I'm
So,
just confused.
so snow really doesn't come into play. And a heavy snowfall, these are based on maybe, the heaviest snowfall in 10 years or something. You know.
Would ice damming have a factor with pitch?
Oh, I mean, if, you build your roof property and it's done according to town codes, you have to have at least 2 feet inside of your exterior wall with ice and water dam of some sort, at least 2 feet. And your valleys should have ice and water dam in it. So, and that's just on your eaves, not on your rakes.
Okay. I think we did 2 rows of that.
Pardon me?
I think we did 2 rows of the ice.
But it doesn't matter, as long as you got at least 2 feet inside the exterior wall.
Okay.
And the row comes 36 inches, so.
It's got 2 rows. Okay, you have anything else to present at this time?
No.
Okay, real quick, I'm Mr. Taliano's attorney, and I just wanted to put on the record, he mentioned it, he touched on it, I think Ms. Abernathy talked about it, but just put on the record.
Can we have your name?
Oh, Jeff Carroll, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Address? 425 Joliet Street, Dyer is my office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Abernathy read the definition, the application interpretation of the definitions in the zoning ordinance. I think what she read was where any provisions of the zoning ordinance as amended from time to time imposes greater restrictions upon the subject matter than another more general provision imposed by the zoning ordinance. The provision imposing the greater restriction or regulation shall be deemed to be controlling. Now, my interpretation of these definitions, these are not provisions that impose a restriction. They're simply definitions that help them interpret those provisions. And the provision in question here, section 6.2, section C, and that was the one that said the maximum height of any building shall not exceed 30 feet at its peak, measured from 12 inches below the top of the foundation. It would be my interpretation on behalf of Mr. Taliano that the definition height of building then states that the vertical distance measured from the average elevation of the proposed finished grade at the front of the building to the highest point of the roof for flat roofs, to the deck line for mansard roofs, and then to the mean height between eaves and ridges for gable, hip, and gambrel roofs. So that's what he's looking at, is the building height. That's not, to me, this is not a provision that imposes something, it's just helping to interpret the provisions that do. And then I think that, I know this says at its peak, and our common idea of peak, I get it, it's a peak, the top, it's the peak of my head. But I think that you use the definitions to interpret what peak means here. I think the definitions change what peak means, and you have to harmonize the various provisions of an ordinance. So anyway, I just wanted to, if you have any question, I know it's kind of legal hoop jumping or whatever right there, but I think that's how I would interpret it, and that's how I think a court would interpret that, because it has to harmonize everything. So anyway, you guys can talk about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the pitch on that roof now?
612?
612? And what's the width of the front of the building, the gable end?
36.
You got 36 feet, your porch is 36 foot long.
Correct.
All right, so then your run is 18 feet.
Correct.
At most you could drop this to a 412, and,
It wouldn't drop 3 feet.
pardon?
So I wouldn't drop it 3 full feet.
No, I'm just saying, the most you can drop it is to
Yeah.
afford anything under 412, you might have to put a flat roof on it.
Is there room up there?
No.
That windows aren't, that window's not there?
No, no.
the one that would appear to be the third-story window is not,
No, we were gonna do it for aesthetics, just to have a window up there, because it had the space, but since we turned it and shrunk everything, it's just, yeah. Did you send the pictures that I sent?
I sent them the picture that you sent, Jack.
Okay.
So those things already sheeted, shingled and everything, huh? Who was the builder?
The framer was,
Are you the general?
yes.
He's the builder.
He's a builder.
so you had said earlier that you wanted 9-foot ceilings on the first floor?
Yes, they are 9 on the first floor. The second floor was supposed to be 9-foot ceilings as well. We moved that down to 8.
So the original house, though, if I'm getting this right, the original house that got approved by the building department, the height of this roof is higher than what it is, if it had been built towards the front, and you dropped it from what you got approved, and you shrunk it.
Because I knew it was already close. It was gonna be 2 inches over, and I didn't want this to be,
Okay, so,
that's why I didn't even think there was any issues until I was told and everything was already up and built and put on.
And this oversight was caught on which inspection?
There was an inspection, they just went and measured it.
It was caught during a completely separate issue that had been appearing, that's not related to the height variance. One of the inspectors had been out on the property for a different issue that had populated, that has been remedied. And at that time, he measured the house, and he measured at 33 feet 8 inches at 12 inches below copper foundation to the peak. Just to make sure, I sent out a second building inspector, and he went out and he measured it at 33 feet 10 inches. So both of my building inspectors that go out regularly and do all the inspections, the improving plans, all that, both of them have measured it 3 feet above the bulk requirements.
in the original print that he was authorized to build, that he pulled federal permit for, what is the height of that roof?
When he changed the original prior to, he had it at 32. He submitted new plans that showed it was gonna be 29.6.
And then and then that 29.6, is that the print that the building department approved?
That is the one that we approved.
So you went, then that's a different story. So now he's at, what you're at, 30 what?
33 8 inches.
The permit that was the house permit, that was approved by the building permit, his height of his roof on that blueprint was 29 what?
29.6.
So you told me that you went shorter,
I did.
No, your print that was authorized was at 29 what?
29.6.
I don't have it in front of me, that's why I'm asking her.
What page was that on? Because I know the one that showed the elevations page showed 30 feet, 2 inches.
This was on
Right.
item 8.03 section PDF that you submitted to Tammy Bilbrey, that was then sent to our engineer for part of the site plan review. That was the last set of plans that we had. There was actually inconsistencies in that one and the one that you submitted, but that was the one that you said the height was gonna be, and that's what they went off of, and that's the 30 feet that was on the building permit is what the inspectors approved.
So I do want to note that that height was also based off the mean between the eaves and the ridge. The architect did
I'm
on all
going
those.
based off whatever that
Yes,
initial
but
blueprint was.
that height was based off the average between the eaves and the ridge. That's where they were showing the building height. The architect put that in as the height. So it wouldn't have been the very tippy top, it was the mean between the two.
All right. Everybody got that for now?
Yes.
Do you have anything else to present at this time?
The only other thing I can send is, I did put in for the revisions to the house, the changes. That was also approved. I have to write another check to them for that. But that was also approved, and that did show the gable switch.
That was only for interior. You didn't submit anything exterior with that.
No, it showed the turn, and it showed the way everything ran. It showed the
Yeah, it
two
showed
roof
the
lines and
turn.
everything.
Okay. You mind having a seat for a minute, we'll pull up demonstrators here. Do we have any demonstrators for this variance?
Again, I just have a couple questions. Jerry Wilken, 1826 West 131st Avenue. Actually, how many submittals for site plan were submitted? The one I have is the third submittal.
There were,
It's hard to read in my phone.
there
It
were
does
a few.
show- Okay, it does show water.
3, 4, something around there.
What I have, the one I saw today is 3. I don't know if anybody's been to the property in the last couple of days, but I don't know where the water gardens could possibly go.
It's on the
There's
approved
still-
site plan, there's supposed to be 2.
There's 2 of them.
One's gonna be in the front, and if I remember correctly, one's gonna be on the back of the driveway. Correct.
Correct. Okay, and those are still
Those still have to be
still
installed, and
have to be done before there's occupancy.
Yep, they have to be put in according to the site plan that was approved by engineer prior to final
Okay.
occupancy is given.
And the lack of siltworms and the mud that's running all over the neighbor's driveway, there's just, I mean,
The MS4 should have been corrected, I can have another inspector go out and take a look.
I'm just asking questions about what I saw, because when I heard about this, I had the same question. How many inspections are there on a new home? 4, 5, 6?
Multiple.
Yeah.
There's 2 pre-pours unless there's underground, and then there's more before they can start going vertical. They have foundation, roof,
Yeah, probably 5 or 6.
insulation, finals. We've added one now where before they put on siding to go up and do a wrapping inspection to make sure the wrapping's done to code. When it's checked, we have when we do a permit, there's a copy of inspections, and there's a multitude of them that are checked. Every single one is checked for a new home build.
Okay, well, I'd ask that somebody go look at the MS4.
We'll take
stuff over
another
there,
look at
'cause
something we've
I
already.
just came from there before I came from here, and it's, the best pour. So, I'm glad we have a roof expert here.
Okay, thank you. Any other demonstrators for or against?
Chuck Becker, 6100 West 136th Place. I drove by there, took pictures of the place, and if I can approach, like I said, with the rain gardens, because I remember when this was a vacant lot, push for these rain gardens, because otherwise, all the water's gonna run downhill. Well, according to these rain gardens, it's gonna be on the opposite side where the water runs. Can I approach and show you pictures?
Sure.
There's probably a 5-foot drop at least in the road. The house, I'll show you. And here's western property. The rain garden's supposed to be all the way on the other side and all the way in the back. The west side, rain garden's supposed to be right there. We're talking a couple feet drop off.
I was out there today too, and that was the first thing that I noticed was the considerable drop off.
And then they're gonna have the rain garden on the opposite side where the water's on. You'd think the rain garden would be on the west side of the house, where the driveway is.
It is.
It is, there's 2.
There's 2. There's one in the front, and there's one on the west side.
And it's on the east side of the driveway.
One's gonna be about here, and then one's gonna be up in here. I don't have the site plans in front of me, but one is approved for here, and that's a larger rain garden, and then one's gonna be in the front. And all the drainage, how it's supposed to go, is gonna be,
That's the west side, right there. You can see
You can see where the garage is.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of them, there's gonna be
Well,
a second.
no,
and
it's
a
all the
rear.
way in the back here, but the rain garden's on the opposite side of the driveway.
There's two.
Right, but everything drains to the west.
They're supposed to grade and point all their drain spots to both of the rain gardens as best as possible.
But that's defying gravity. I mean, you're talking, it's gonna go, what, to the opposite side before it drains to the west? I mean,
It underwent extensive engineering review before approval. And it's
Well,
gonna
I
have
suggest everyone
two,
goes out there and look at it, because,
This has nothing to do with the variance, Chuck.
well,
Let's move on with this variance. You know that.
I understand that part.
Okay.
But for the height variance, shouldn't he go after the contractor that did it? I mean, where's the house? You can see how tall it is. So obviously, it's over 30 foot.
He is the contractor.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, appreciate your concerns, thank you. Any other remonstrators for or against?
I just had, I'm sorry, Terry Broders, 14513 Morris. I, not so much for or against, but I did have a question. I'm in agreement with Eric. I'm trying to figure out how a roof got shingled and got to the point it's at. Before a roof inspection, and I understand there's a series of inspections and they're done in a certain order, and that's so this doesn't happen. You don't get to the point where now I have to pull off a roof that's finished. My point being is that when you call it for a rough inspection, that's before insulation, that's before you shingle, I'm thinking, right? And so you can shingle a plywood and then get a rough inspection, and that rough inspection, that's when you do your final height measurement. When would the final height measurement for that peak be done? My thoughts and all my building experience, that would be done the rough inspection, rough framing inspection. So I'm wondering, how did that get to 3 feet, .8 over to 30 foot, and the roof's done, and we're talking about it now? Shouldn't it have been done earlier?
and
We'll probably cover that under, department comments.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Any other remonstrators? Anybody online, Ashley?
no one online, nothing submitted.
Nothing submitted. All right, we'll close the public portion of this hearing.
Okay. My problem is, along with Eric there, is that plans were submitted and they're resubmitted and approved for something different than what he's built. For instance, the drawing that we have in our packet here shows the gable end of the upper roof facing east and west. The picture of the installed roof has the gable end running north and south. Was that a change that was on the drawings?
That was on the internal changes that he submitted that did show that.
That was,
Yeah,
okay.
that showed that instead of having it facing east west, it was that way.
That's fine, as long as, because, you know, I think one problem lies here is that he built something that wasn't exactly approved. And I'm trying to figure out the meaning here, but I don't have dimensions. But at that mean, it should be 4.5 feet up from like
Those rafters?
well, that line that's going across the picture of the Tyvek up there. And, but I don't know what the dimension from that line to the ground is, because there's no dimensions on anything I see here. So if that's where he measured from, I'd like to know what that measurement was. The mean.
They measured all the way to the peak, to the top. But
I know they measured,
Yeah.
but that's not what he's measured. So I'm trying to figure out what that measurement is. All in all, you got some errors here that really need to be corrected. Now, I know there was no remonstrator against, but I know at the plant commission that there was a lady who, under public comment, got up there and brought up this house and, the height of it. Now, the options here is a costly one. You know, is to lower it to 3 foot. I'd sure hate to see them have to spend that money to lower the house, but, you know, we can't let people build things and then come in after the fact to get a variance. So, I mean, this is really a tough situation here. For you and for us. You know, so.
Okay, any other department comments?
At this time, based on no recommendation on this item, their thoughts are similar to things that have been voiced at what point in time do we start granting variances to people who go forth and build it and then go, oh, oops, let me ask for forgiveness after I've done what I wasn't supposed to do.
Is
So
this the
there's
first
been
house
no
you've built?
recommendation.
Yes, we're moving in.
Okay. But you've never generaled for a big project like building your own house before?
No, I thought I had a good person to project manage it. But
And again, Mr. Taliano was using, he didn't purposely build it outside of how the board is interpreting this. To be clear, he was going by the definitions. So, I know I already talked about that, but I wanted to make it clear that there was never any intention. He was just interpreting it differently based on this mean for gable roof definition.
Well, it's just the fact of being not familiar with construction, I would assume, you know, or building a house. And it's unfortunate that he runs into this problem with whatever along the way. So, and now we got to figure out, or he has to figure out, what's the best solution for him to remedy this.
Well,
I don't get a variance.
As I interpret this, your ordinance, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think a court would think that it is within your ordinance, but again, I'm beating a dead horse. I didn't want to be the impression left that Mr. Taliano's trying to ask forgiveness after doing something. He thought he was within, and I think he is within. That's our position.
And according to what Ashley said, is that it's the stricter of the two definitions.
It says the stricter of two impositions. I don't think the definitions would be interpreted as an imposition. The definitions are the definitions. The only imposition here is 62C1. That's the imposition.
Well, I'm looking at it as the print said 29 some feet. He built it at 33.
The print, correct me if I'm wrong, he was using the 29 feet was the median of the gable roof. That's why it said 29 feet. He wasn't.
So the medium is what we all build houses, that's what we go off of for height of roofs?
According to your definitions, it is. That's how a court would see it.
I defer to legal on that one.
You need to bring your A game to court that day, counsel.
Well,
Well, the height of the roof, I'm gonna say it again, I don't agree with that.
And we don't have a plan there, so I can't check measurements or see, you know,
From off that original plan that was approved?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I've been sitting on this board for a couple of years. And
10 or 6.
10 or 6. And I have never heard this means in this 16 chapter, subchapter C, and, you know, we deal with hundreds of variances a year, and I've just never had anybody read overall height, you know, in this kind of gross aspect before. It just kind of floors me. I'm in complete agreement with Eric.
these are the town's definitions, sir, with due respect, and
Okay, well,
Since 1402 was adopted in March 2022, we've issued probably a couple hundred single-family building permits. We never had this discussion. That isn't how it was measured, it wasn't how those houses were permitted. This will be the first. So we have custom and practice on top of it as to how we interpret and apply those terms, including definitions.
Additionally, there's further language in that section that says, unless such construction would be inconsistent with the manifest intent of the zoning ordinance. So when it's talking about definitions, it's also talking about the manifest intent of the zoning ordinance. The manifest intent for bulk standards is it's 30 feet at its peak. That's from 12 inches below top of foundation.
Right now, you have a definition that essentially is, you're saying it just doesn't. Tom, this would be the argument. You have a definition that you're saying doesn't count. If you don't approve, or if you say you need the variance, we're essentially just taking this definition as part of your ordinances, crossing it out and throwing it away. And you can't do that. I mean, that's just black letter ordinance statutory interpretation law. You can't
Again,
just wipe stuff out there.
And counsel, if we take your interpretation, that means we don't need to be here tonight.
Correct. I agree.
Why are you here?
Mr. Taliana filed a back variance, that's why I wanted to put it on the record that I don't think he needed one to begin with.
The record's made. Mr. Chairman, it would seem that this could be simplified. I've personally seen dozens of after-the-fact variances because things happen. I think we pretty now well beat up circumstances. We have a first-time home builder buyer, occupant to be. There's been a mistake made. The question is it fatal or is it? They're properly here before you seek relief. So either you will agree or not that what's been done will permit you to consider and approve a developmental variance to let what sits, what's been planned, what's been built to date. And nobody's asked the question, and you probably shouldn't, maybe I'll ask it. What's the value of what's in the ground wrong? I don't know, I guess I could put a rough number on it, probably 6 figures. So there's a 6-figure plus concern or issue or item to address. And we're not going to go backwards easily. I mean, you can make them, of course, that's your call, but it's really pretty simple. Now, it's 33 feet, 8 inches height. It's so fatal that you can't be to grant a variance. I don't know.
But if it wasn't after the fact, and we would be able to consider this rationally with good information put in front of us, well, I mean, I can't speak for the whole board, but would we go for something 10% over with a new construction like this that has no practical difficulties?
No, probably not, to answer your question, Jeff, probably not. They would have to have a good reason for the height. Now, what I've seen here is, yes, mistakes been made. I've made some costly mistakes when I was doing a few things, and I got some relief for doing it. People were kind to me. Where this house sits, it isn't blocking anybody's view, that extra 3 feet. It's on the corner, basically, right? Off a corner. I mean, I don't see what the extra 3 feet hurt here. We've got tomato here about what we think and what their attorney thinks. So, I mean, are they doing is construction going on now, or has it been halted?
It's been proceed at their own risk once they fix the violation and remedied the situation. So they've been warned that it's proceed at their own risk. If the board does not deny their variance, to be prepared that anything that they put in going forward can be removed. If you approve it, then everything they've proceeded at their own risk is fine to keep going.
Removing you remove the shingles, you're gonna throw them away, and shingles today are pretty expensive. Nail on and everything. Probably say the plywood, rafters, you can probably say they have to be adjusted for lower height. I don't know if you could drop the walls, because you're at 8 foot up there now. So, you know, it's dropping much, you can't drop it under 8 foot. So, I mean, they're in a predicament here that is very costly, and I really think that they have good reason to get this variance. That's my opinion, but there's 4 other people here.
Mr. Chairman, along that thought, John, would you consider, again, I remind you of the jurisdiction you have to impose reasonable conditions. Could a reasonable condition for you be that they go get a real contractor who is licensed in the town of Cedar Lake, general contractor, say going forward? They don't need to know anything. They're building their own house, right? They can come in and get the permit and start banging away. Somebody who is licensed, credentialed, and knowledgeable would at least be an additional insurance measure.
I think that's a pretty good idea, because when you get a professional involved and he knows how to assemble things properly, not that you don't, I mean, give him a book and read it and you should be able to do it. But I would also like to see good, legitimate, approved plans, not plans that we haven't seen plans. So I would like to see the approved plans, and make sure that he knows what the plans are that have been approved if he doesn't, and, you know, go forward with this. It's got to be done right from here on. Any more mistakes, and, you know...
Are you suggesting a deferral?
Well, I don't think we need a deferral. I think they need to get everything okayed, and then the building department can tell them to go ahead based on what Ashley sees there, to go ahead and proceed with their construction.
Well, you have 3 feet 8 inches of area to cover here. That's the reason for having some action or determination on that developmental variance application. Because that's what exists.
Is this the only building structure that you're building right now?
Is this a new building?
No, the building structure that's up, that's the only thing you're building on this lot, right? Like, I see a slab, is that just part of your driveway back there?
No, it's a shed, a small shed, or larger shed, but short. I don't know what's considered large, but 14 by 20.
That's situated at the back of the property.
And that was already approved?
That, they submitted a permit and that got approved, yes.
I guess I can see an argument for practical difficulty here, but it's self-created practical difficulty.
Well, it's negligence, forcing it, negligence.
It just, because I like to have an argument for these variances, I don't see it, you know. I mean, I built a couple of houses myself. I made some expensive mistakes in the past too. I had to learn from them. But I had to correct a lot of things too, you know. Sometimes experience is costly. I'm sympathetic to the plight here. But there's I don't don't think we should get into the habit, certainly, of having people make these types of mistakes and ask for the variance after the fact.
I agree.
So did the framer, did he ever approach you and say that there was gonna be a height difference? When he went to go look at your print, then he went and laid out the house, and went to go frame up this and put his joists in and all this, he came back to you and there he said nothing of the fact.
I remember something initially that the project manager had told me about with it going to be close with the 27-foot run. That was the decision to go the other way and to shrink the second level.
You said you
Were
wanted
the trusses, were they manufactured or did you actually build your own?
They were manufactured. We sent in truss certifications for them.
Can't address those.
That's why he dropped that foot in the height. He already had those trusses on order. So once that was done. They could have been on the ground when he went to go put them on. So changing that's not gonna happen.
I wish we could see the plans too.
But,
What, the plans that were approved?
yeah,
Okay.
but seeing the plans that were approved is not gonna correct the situation that we're looking at right now. And, do you have a, completion date that you're looking at?
Oh, everything's kind of just slowly moving because I don't know what's gonna happen.
When would you like to have the house finished by? I'm trying to get a timeline from you. By
Oh,
Christmas, or?
well, the kids are starting school in August, so hopefully we don't have to commute that long. So the sooner the better. If this is approved and we can go full swing, I'd hope 60 to 90 days at the worst.
Do you think seeing the plans are gonna change?
No,
anything?
I don't know what the answer is here.
I just wanna make sure we have a good set of plans on file with us and with them, so that we're all looking at the same picture.
You know, maybe a means of, to come up with some sort of a compromise here is the general contractor going forward and, it is what it is. I mean,
I can't see having strip is, I mean, it's a big mistake, but it's gotta be
oh, I can see it.
horrible strip it.
I just,
My catch is, those trusses had to get ordered, so they went off of a print. They just didn't pull it out of the sky. So when that print was the original print that they were supposed to build off of, whoever laid it out to go figure out to order the trusses, what happened with that? I mean, those are ordered. You don't order those until they can get trusses built in a matter of weeks. They take time to get. Plus, they're free energy. Now, if you're building them on site, it's a different story. But these were manufactured trusses that someone ordered off of a print that was approved and didn't go off that print. So either, I don't think you did the ordering for those, correct?
Correct.
So. But, Jim's already done. He's already at 3'8", so either tear the roof off and make them. He's still gonna have pitch if you tore it and did it right. I mean, if you dropped off 3.5 feet, you'd still have pitch. It's just, you're just taking delay and construction costs, through the roof.
if he goes down to, what would we have to go down to, like a 312?
No, you'd wanna do that.
Four, give up.
That's what I was gonna say, that's
Well,
not a good, that's not a good plan.
Look at the pitch on the next door neighbor's house.
Yeah, I know, that was not good either.
Right, so, if you're not, the difference is, are we gonna tear the gentleman's roof off and have him redo it, or are we gonna let him live with that 3'6"? Because he hired someone that was not incompetent, that didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Mr. Chairman, the lot size on this is 15,500 square feet. If it has an R1 versus an R2, R1 allows 35 feet high. It makes an R1 lot size, it just zoned R2.
So they changed the zoning?
They changed the zoning last year, wasn't that, Dave?
Longer than that.
Oh.
That was
Last May?
last,
Couple years.
I thought it was last May.
This is our
yes, it
two.
was.
Was it after 1402?
It was after 1402, because that was Ken Peach coming in front of the board.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Is he still involved in this?
No, he was just a seller.
He went through the planning process for the one-lot subdivision and the rezone process. Because originally the entire property, because it had been all of this lot here and this lot here had been classified as MZ. MZ is when there's multiple zones on one property and we don't have a clear definition of where one zoning begins and the other ends. So in order to make it clear and clean and consistent with the rest of the subdivision, an R2 zoning was sought.
I mean, bottom line is, you know, that you, Greg, you said, I mean, we're gonna have them tear the roof off.
Right.
Or we're gonna let them.
Well, I don't even know, even tearing the roof off, I don't know if that fixes it, because,
Still gonna be over 30.
yeah, because having that light of a pitch is, not only is it gonna be ugly as sin, other than rearranging both floor levels and changing those, you're not gonna fix this to still have a good pitch on the house, a good pitch on the roof. I'm sitting here thinking about it, you got 9 foot on the main level, 8 foot on the upper level.
Yeah.
Even if he comes down to a 412, which is the minimum that I'd like to see, just for an aesthetic purpose.
What he's
Just for
looking-
waterproofing purposes.
He-
You don't want
and that
anything
too.
under 412.
That,
Really, you can go down to 312.
So he
Yeah,
loses,
but
he loses about, what, a
it
foot
would look
and a
like
half?
hell. Huh?
With that pitch, you lose about a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Didn't we figure that, what was the number that was going around earlier, 28 feet?
Well, the run is 18 foot. So if you take, 2 inches off, so it's 2 inches for every foot,
I just don't see,
it'd be like 36 inches, so maybe 3 foot.
I don't see a practical way to fix it, the way that it's built. Just changing the pitch of the roof.
Grant variance. That's what I said, grant variance would, you know, some criteria of hiring a good builder, licensed builder in town, a good builder with insurance, bonded, all that good happy stuff. Get a good set of plans that you agree with, the town agrees with, that it's so everybody's reading off the same set of plans and go forward.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Fines? Would a fine be in order?
You don't have authority to do that in this setting.
Okay. And if you survey, that's fine. A little more careful.
Do the math. It's hard to, it's easier to do the math than undo the math, because that's what I've been trying to do, you know? I don't know how you create a solution for this without changing the wall height on both levels.
I mean, yeah, you're talking some major change.
Right. I'm about to rebuild the house.
Now you got windows in on the first floor, so you're gonna have to drop some windows down, and you're only gaining a foot by dropping it down.
Is there a list of contractors that you guys?
Yes, there is. I can email one to Jim tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, are we done talking?
I guess.
I'm good.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the variance as requested for allow the petitioner to construct a new home with a height of approximately 33 feet 8 inches to the peak. He must also find a competent, professional,
Registered, licensed.
Licensed and registered in the town of Cedar Lake, right?
with the town of Cedar Lake builder to complete his home, and to make sure that we being the town and the owner has the same set of prints that were approved by the town, showing the same measurements and everything on it correctly. This- where the rain garden will be, so that we don't have any questions, it's in doubt right now, but that's not part of us, but I want that to be seen on the plan, and finding the facts.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded by Ray to grant with conditions of finding and hiring a licensed and registered general contractor in the town of Cedar Lake. And the verbiage about the water gardens, rain gardens.
Right.
Including the findings of fact. Any questions? Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capura?
Yes.
Mr. Buggy?
Under the circumstances, yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Jim, I'll get you a copy of our most recent list of contractors tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Well, we got this Kramer out, just beat the sheet.
Oh, yeah, we have one more.
Oh, yeah, we do have, well,
One more, but that one we continue.
good, do that one. After we pause for just a moment, we need to bring back the Kramer request.
No, yeah.
Applied punitive
pressure.
If you recall, before we cut that guy,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, technically, Jeff, we just.
My brother was he received the award from the conference, so he just signed it up. And then after he retired, now he's just doing research. Because that's a summer. That's why.
Well,
Is that the runoff you guys are?
Jared was talking about the drainage farm. I haven't heard any, I've never heard about the drain garden.
The rain garden's on that lot. It's not.
It's on the site plan that was approved.
Yeah, and it's done, if it's on that plan, then you're gonna have to.
It went through 3-4 minimum engineering review, done, signed off.
Is, not him, but the other guys doing permit, is he making sure so fast that what's going on in these houses? Or that tension ring, like these, the worms they call them,
They
on all new construction?
they look at it when they go out, I'll have them go and take a look.
Maybe it's like right in here.
We,
On height measure the house.
those of you that are sticking around for the rest of the meeting, we would like to bring,
Oh, you got your mic back on, sorry.
Item number 2 back under, new business, the Kramer developmental variance, 15037 Cary Street. You said it was in order, David, and you heard nothing else from,
No, last I talked with Ms. Kramer was when she brought me everything so that I would have all the proof that she needed for the hearing. She knew it was slotted for today. She anticipated being here, so I don't know if maybe some form of an emergency came up.
Mr. Chairman, can we just floor this till next, give her another month?
we certainly could. Probably wouldn't be bad, should we open the floor up for remonstrance?
You should, there may be somebody here
Okay.
about this.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to say or remonstrate about the Kramer, variance request, developmental variance request, either, for or against? Any correspondence or anyone online, Ms. Abernathy?
Nothing corresponded to me and nobody online.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now you may proceed.
I'll make a motion to, continue this next month.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made to defer this item to, next public hearing. Motion made by Eric. Second by John. Questions? Roll call?
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capura?
Yes.
Mr. Bunting?
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
I will reach out to her.
Hey, just let you know, I got that, the top's down to 5%. I mean, is that normal?
It happens.
Public comment? Anybody have anything? Do we have any updated items?
Nothing on my end.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. At 8:43.